learned some of your chops down in the States early. Tell me about that. Was that Detroit?
He's still a good friend. Brian Downey's a great drummer. He kind of plays the New Orleans style. He's got that kick. I don't know what it is, but it's magic. But when I was 17, I took off with him, and Bruce Burns played sax, North Bay guy, and that bass player from Sudbury, whose name I can't remember. But that was in February. I just turned 17, and by June, the band kind of imploded. By this time, Patty Hall, she was singing with us. And she was from Detroit, and her and Brian hooked up. And then when everything imploded, they were going back to Detroit. And so they said, come on, Dan. Okay. so then we didn't play very much, played a couple of gigs, but it's like going to university, going to these clubs. We were the only white guys in there. And then once they knew what we were doing there, everything was cool. In fact, a couple of places here, play guitar. I don't, play Summertime. It's easy. And in this one case, the guy was going out, he was a junkie, but he was a very nice man, and here, play. Yeah. Just play. Just play, and he'd go and do his thing, and he'd come back, and, it was great. And it's a learning experience. I learned, don't do that, but do this.
Right.
And, that's where I got hooked on organ B3 trios, guitar, organ, and drums, and just funky, and that stuff I still love it to this day. I still hear it. Jimmy Smith and Jack McDuff and Jimmy McGriff. I hear that stuff and it just drives me nuts. It's just the sound of it and the way it works and the grooves. They're just timeless.
Right on. Well, it's good to still get a charge out of something like you love.
Yeah. I'm just a guitar player. I like everything. Just happen to play a lot of blues because it's fun to play. And it worked out, and then now got the A-list band for sure, So I can't quit now.
No, you can't quit.
got a great band, Why would you want to quit?
I met you 30 years ago. When you're playing with the Buffaloes. Actually, I was with the North Bay Independent, I think, at the time.
That's right. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I think you were having a reunion or something like that.
Oh yeah. We had a couple. Yeah,
that's what it was. It was a reunion from it because I only got in North Bay, landed here in '86.
Yeah,
and. I was hitting all the bars and as many bands as I could, but I don't remember much of it.
Me neither.
I was like 21, 22. I remember meeting you guys and doing a feature with you.
Well,
who was in that band?
Mark Clout.
I still know him. Yeah,
Ron Pratt and Barry Green.
Right. Yeah.
And
that was a big loss, Barry Green?
Yeah, for in a lot of different ways. The last Buffaloes the reunion we did, he was on pretty heavy medication, so everything had to be timed. I went and picked him up about half an hour before we played, and then right after we played, had to get him back home, so more medication.
Oh wow!
But he was never complained. He just did his thing, and Barry's a good person. And he spoke so quietly, but when there was a decision to be made, when Barry spoke, everybody listened. And it usually made good sense.
I saw you recently at the Raven. It was a fundraiser this spring for suicide awareness.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. It had a whole bunch of different entertainers, right?
Yeah. That was a great night. It was rocking. It was really well organized too, and that's good to see because I played a few of those where it's just chaotic, and it's equipment's falling over and people are, everybody was pretty calm and relaxed and organized.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It's good. Never perfect, I guess. But,
no, I can't. It's impossible. The chaos is all part of it, but controlled chaos is a good thing.
Yeah. So I'm looking in this Long and McQuaid magazine, and there's this article here about what's that? What's it called?
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, the imposter thing.
The imposter syndrome.
What is that?
That's basically, it's like you're too stupid to know you're stupid, but it's not quite that. It's more like you don't know enough about, say if you're, just say you're a guitar player and you've learned a few things and you've written a couple songs and okay, I'm on my way now. But you're naive to the fact that there's way more to than just learn a couple chords and writing a couple songs. That's nothing. There's a whole Bible of stuff you have to learn before you even can have a good decision make good decisions about what you're going to do. And a lot of people don't see that, especially younger people, people that just don't know. You know, they just don't know. Yeah, because you can play the simplest thing in the world, like Wild Thing or whatever, Hendrix. Like that's the simplest song he probably ever played, but he did it so well. You know, and that's the difference. Like he's not just honking around; he's digging in.
Right.
You know, he's got more than forward and reverse on his car. He's got a bunch of gears in between and high ratio, low ratio. He's got it all. You know, and that's kind of not being aware that all that stuff exists. So you think you're shit hot, and you're not. You know, like you're just another schlup learning stuff. Well, we all are. Really.
Yeah, I think every craft has that, where people get a sort of they have early success based on natural talent.
Yeah,
and that it's kind of a prima donna thing.
Yeah,
right. And you start acting like you're really there,
yeah.
and then experience comes to humble you a little bit. You find out that you had natural talent, but now you have to work on that and get it better.
Yeah, you have to make it into something. It's like having a really good pile of clay. Well, that's not what you're trying to do here. You're trying to create something out of that pile of clay and make something out of it. And I noticed it. Been watching it for decades.
Yeah.
You know, somebody will come out and you look at them, I don't know, they need to do a bit of work. That's just, you know, I do say it out loud sometimes. But, you know, that needs a bit of work. But they figure this Dunning-Kruger effect comes in because, why? Because they play a gig, all their family and friends come out.
Yeah.
And they don't pay any attention to what they're doing, but when the song's finished, they all clap and then they go back drinking their beer and do.
Yeah.
But after about 3 gigs, the family and friends wear thin.
Yeah.
They got other things to do.
Yeah.
You know, and
they support you up to a point.
Yeah, like they're not going to show up at every gig you play. Like they'll show up once in a while. But so what happens is you got to branch out and get other people.
Yeah, real fans.
Real fans, yeah, strangers that, hey, that's good. I want to hear that again. And it's pretty simple, but it's really difficult to make that happen. I don't know how it happens. It just happens. Like I've never promoted myself as the best at anything. I just play, you know, and people like it. Excellent, you know. I'm pleasantly surprised because I've always kind of avoided the mainstream of pop music and just because everybody else is doing it, okay, I'm going to try something different. You know?
Right.
I'm always kind of blues oriented or Talking Heads when nobody's listening to Talking Heads around here. And, you know, there's just so much good music that people should know about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's.
Have you ever tried teaching?
I don't like it. Yeah. No, I've given a few lessons, but I don't really know what I'm doing. The lessons I've given are when people have specific questions about something. Okay, come on over and I'll explain what I'm doing. Like one time a guy came over with a video camera and he had me play Sultans of Swing, just show him the chords and then play over top of it. And he just videotaped it for half an hour, shot me $20. See you later. You know?
Oh yeah. So a demonstration guy. Yeah.
Yeah, just show him how it's done before you could see all that stuff on YouTube. You know?
Right.
That's quite a bit before. And then Brian Duffy's making a living playing in Las Vegas right now. And he came over for about 3 lessons, and I said, okay, I can't teach you anymore without maybe sending you the wrong way. So I told him go talk to Brian McDowell, because Brian is a very good teacher, and he's university schooled, you know, so he knows his stuff.
Right.
And like people ask me questions.
Well, teaching's like craft, like anything else.
Sure it is.
It's like some people are natural at teaching, but to be really, really good teacher, you have to plan things and coordinate them and know your topic and expand that.
Yeah,
be able to take the student further than you can go.
Yeah, knowing where you're headed, kind of thing. Like have a goal in mind of some sort. And I'm not very good at that.
Well, as long as you know, right?
Yeah. Well, I tried it a couple of times, and
not every great person at a skill is a good teacher.
No, that's right. Like they never worked on that part of it. Worked on playing and just tooling around. You know,
Mm-hmm.
And like timbre, the tone of things is so important.
Right.
You can play a fast lick, a lousy sounding guitar, and it sounds lousy. Play the very same thing on a good sounding instrument, sounds great. You know, like it's got to have good sound. You know? So important. And a lot of people don't get that. They got all these pedals, and then you turn on a distortion pedal. Well, it's kind of squawking a bit, so you put on a noise gate. And then you put on a little compression. And then next thing you know, it's nowhere where you started.
Right.
Like a good sounding guitar plugged into a good sounding amp. There, that's a basic sound. Okay, maybe get a boost and a tuner and a couple other things, a wah pedal or something. That's all you need. Like recording, sure, juice it up and put a lot of spice on it, but in live performance, it doesn't matter. Unless you're doing Pink Floyd tribute stuff, like that's a whole different thing. But if you're just playing blues and rock and roll, play, you know?
Right.
I learned that in the 80s. I got into all this rack mount stuff, and I spent more time, for about 3-4 months, I spent more time at a gig tuning things in, and because you fix it up at home, and then you get out in the gig, it sounds totally different because you're in a different room. And that's fine. I throw it away. Okay, let's start all over here.
Screw that, right?
Got a good guitar, plug it in. Okay, here we go. Marshall amp, Les Paul, boom, fine. You know, that was at the time.
Yeah.
Now it's Fenders. And
how many different bands have you been with?
8,002. I don't know. Not that many, really. Because I got probably 50 or 60. Like in Toronto, I only played about probably 4 or 5 different outfits. And then came back here. Did some studio work, that's true. Like played guitar on an album that Paul Anka's brother was recording.
Oh, no kidding.
But Paul Anka's brother isn't as talented as Paul Anka. He's okay, but he wanted to hear like George Harrison slide guitar. I said, I can't play it at that time. This is like in the 70s. I said, I don't know how to do that. You know, and so anyway, we came up with the sound for him, and he was happy. But did quite a few of those things.
What was your favorite project in a recording? Like favorite recording?
Favorite that I've ever been involved in?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. I don't listen to it. Like, I do them, listen to it, listen to the finished product when it's all mixed, and then forget about it.
You're just a player.
Yeah, like, what's next, you know?
Yeah.
But I think from the fundamentals point of view, I think the best CD we did, because we raised a lot of money, and we went to Toronto. It was a really good studio, and the engineer understood what we were doing, and we did everything live off the floor, but we had a real B3. And just the sound of it, once again, like the playing wasn't any better than any other album, but the sound of it was so good. And to me, it's my favorite fundamental album. It always will be. You know, like, and that was the first one we did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's 1997.
I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Uh,
It's sold out, I guess.
They're gone. Yeah, I even lost I got the cover and all that. And
What was it called?
Cadillac Boots.
So if anybody has Cadillac Boots out there, we need that. We need that recording.
We want to make a copy. Yeah.
Cadillac Boots, 1997.
Yeah, and it was a totally different band at that point. Mike Bruce, the keyboard player that came back for a while, he was in there, and Ron Pratt was playing drums, and Brad Brown was playing bass, and and it was a good band, and that was like, we just stuck our necks out. We really didn't know what we were getting into. Fortunately, the young guy engineering, it was an Easter weekend, and they gave us the studio for a really good price, apparently. And we got a really good engineer. Like, the kid understood exactly, and he liked what we were trying to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he had
That's key.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Right away, he just snapped in, and he had microphones out in the loading dock with the door a little bit open, and that was our reverb, because it's echoey back there. It's all, and then like it was mic placement. Learned a lot just from doing that session. Learned about mic placement. You know, like, it's so important. Then after that, everything kind of, the recordings are okay, but they're not the same. Like those big Neve boards and the big 2-inch tape and everything just, I don't know. It's too good to, you know? Yeah,
you're a live music guy. That's it.
Yeah, and it's and that stuff is all done, and it's warm sounding. Like, I don't like that brittle sound of digital, and you can hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
I've heard stuff on CBC on Saturday and Sunday mornings. They play a lot of up and coming artists, and I'm sure most of them are people that have gotten grants from the Ontario Arts Council to record with. And some of the stuff you hear it, and you can hear it's out of phase. You can hear it throbbing on the radio. You can hear, it's not supposed to do it. Something's out of phase, you know. And I can hear that, and I'm half deaf. It's on the radio, and I don't play it loud. So can't they hear it when they're wearing headphones? And because they're doing it in a computer, like somebody should have heard that. And like I've only heard that about 3 times in the last few years, but it should never happen. It's so obvious. It's so basic. That's where the Dunning-Kruger effect comes in, because they think they got it all together, and they don't have a clue what they're doing.
A talented young sort of sound guy, not really in the depth of the musician.
That's right.
Same sort of learning thing.
Yeah, he doesn't understand that there's a little more to it than just that. It's like I always look at it.
That's why they call it engineering. Sound engineering.
That's right.
You're building something. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know shit about it. I'm learning right from scratch, but
no,
it's a real craft.
That's absolutely, and you got to have special ears. Like some people just can't do it. Some people, like Ben Leggett here in town, he's just got a great ear.
Yeah,
and I've seen him recording.
I heard good things about him.
Yeah, he's talented. He's very good. He's a good musician, but he's recorded us like. He recorded the Monsters one night downstairs at Average Joe's. He was set up between the drums and the bass player, and he just had this little recorder and headphones on, and the thing came out sounded great. Like considering where he was and how he had to record it.
Oh, cool.
You know, and like Terry Lucent, he just try it. He said, do what you want, you know, because Terry set it all up. And it sounded good.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Trout Lake Monsters, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the last 3-4 years, they only play once or twice a year, maybe. Terry always calls me now because Barry Green used to be in there, but since he got sick, and Dave lives in Sault Ste. Marie, and Terry's out west working. So, played a couple of Christmas parties over the last few years. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah, I think I heard about the one last year. I was going to go to it. But...
Oh, up at the golf course?
Yeah.
Yeah, those things are nuts. They're great. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's
in the back room by the bar.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, when everything kicks in, they're dancing and up on the tables. And yeah, that's great.
Yeah, well, that's the best thing is when you see a group of people that they all know each other and they get into a groove where it's happy times and feel good and not a worry in the world. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
really.
It's just like, let's do this for a minute. Forget all the nonsense that's going on. And then you come back to the nonsense and it's not really as bad as maybe you were thinking it was. You know?
Yeah, well, you don't take it as serious. Once you sort of relax, let it out a little bit.
Well, and we all know it's all propaganda. You know, like it's just from the word go, that's all it is.
What do you think of the Trudeau thing where he got caught up in this blackface stuff?
Oh, man. I don't know what to think anymore.
I think it's kind of funny.
It is funny. Well, it's very ironic.
Yeah.
And you would have thought that he would know those pictures are around, and maybe he would a few years ago declare.
Should have got ahead of it, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things he should have done to make sure that his bad decisions in the past didn't come back to haunt them in the middle of a federal election.
he's done more apologizing than you know.
Oh no, yeah, this was going to be a hard one for him to shake. But I can't. I'm what he did was wrong. I know actually.
Yeah, but it's just stupid.
It's just stupid. It's just stupid. It's insensitive. It was only 2001. Like we're not talking about ancient history here.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? Now, I got to admit, I did I went to a Halloween party in 1984 in Toronto, dressed as an indigenous warrior, right?
Yeah.
Which is no, right? But at the time...
You didn't know any better.
I didn't know better. And I didn't realize it was hurting people's feelings because I was, they would take it as me mocking them because basically I was dressing up like them, right? Which is...
That's a totally different. Yeah, you're just like dressing up like a baseball player or.
Well, that's how I looked at it, but you know, I can only imagine if I was at the I think it was a Seneca College party.
Yeah.
Right, and I went bare chested with this big raven. Pretty stupid. But if there was an Indigenous students there and they saw me acting it up, and who knows what I was doing, of course they would have.
Especially if you're starting to get the beverages are kicking in and what.
Well, of course they were, and I was being a drunken fool, really. But I'm sure glad that they didn't have me on these cell phone videos at the time, right?
Yeah.
Because ironically, I ended up working for the Union of Ontario Indians.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about this kind of thing then.
Yes.
Before that, I didn't understand a lot of the cultural sensitivities and the fact that the oppression and the long history, it all adds up. So when you dress up like them, you're just compounding hundreds of years of shit. Right?
Yeah, you're saying that's okay. Or
yeah, like I'm mocking them, right? So, like I even, right before I got to the Union of Ontario Indians, and I was a Anishinaabeg news editor. I was working for a paper and covering sports.
Yeah.
And it was a football game. It was the Vikings against the Redskins.
Okay.
And the Vikings really did well.
Yeah.
And the headline I wrote, you would never write today. And I would never, and I'm not even to say what I wrote. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Yeah. And not a peep came out of it. Nobody said nothing. This was in 1992. Right?
So that's not that long ago either. Yeah.
No, but it was. That's the type of things.
Years,
So there has been a lot of learning curve for a lot of people in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, well, I think the Indigenous people have said, okay, that's enough, and they got offensive instead of always being defensive.
Yeah, and they're just not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
And they shouldn't.
Yeah,
they shouldn't take it anymore.
No, why should they? Like they got screwed. Everybody got screwed by white Europeans. It's almost
over and over again.
The whole world,
yeah.
Africans, everybody. Yeah. So somebody could get rich. That's all it was. But I learned the lesson when I was in grade 2. My mother, she grew up extremely poor in a French family, and there's about 6 kids, and they lived in an English town right on the Quebec border, but they lived in Ontario, but they were one of 2 or 3 French families in town. So they were constantly fighting. Their dad was gone, whatever. And so she knew what it was like to be, slighted or, people not liking you. And like they used to have to go to school in a bunch, and the brothers would beat people up to take care of them. I'm in grade 2 and I had the flu. And there's this native girl, Lillian was her first name. I can't remember her last name. She sat in front of me, and I always thought she was kind of cute, But I'm sitting there, and she did. It was winter time, and she smelled like wood smoke because they burnt wood in her house, and I puked on the floor. And then when my mother came and got me, brought me home, and so what happened? And I said, well, that Indian girl stunk, and it made me bring up. And she grabbed me by the ear and she said, well, that's not true. She said, you have the flu.
Yeah.
You have the flu. And she made me go back and apologize to Lillian. And okay. And then she told me the story about growing up in Ontario, being French on the border. And,
right.
And it wasn't a good place to be. So I understood. And that was about, 7 years old, I guess.
Wow.
In grade 2, whatever that is. And I'll never forget that. Like, she
taught you well?
Yeah, well, she was very French-Canadian, and she had Maurice Richard eyes, like when she got mad.
Okay.
Maurice Richard's eyes with
he's
very alive, and she made her point. And that's, very seldom did she ever raise her voice, but that time you sit down.
And she taught you a lesson, right on. More parents need to do that.
Yeah, well, nowadays it's
now it's the kids teaching the parents.
Almost, yeah. Well, especially with environmental stuff and that. Like, my goodness, there's more kids aware of what's going on than parents.
Yeah.
They're unconscious, or they just don't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah, I know. They're our generation. A lot of people are got their head in the sand. They got their pension. They think they earned it, and nobody else can. The world doesn't the world owes them something or something like that. Right?
Yeah, there's that thing where, yeah.
Well, you only work 30 years and you have a subsidized pension.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do actually still owe the world.
Yeah. It never ends.
It doesn't end. Like you know,
Yeah, no,
just
that's
because
right.
you work 30 years.
Yeah, like, yeah, and a lot of people like that just don't know any better. Like, they've just never been taught that, you know, like I always found the harder I work, the luckier I get, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's just the way it works. You don't have to have a major plan. Just keep plugging away at stuff and something always happens.
Yeah, as long as you're plugging away and working hard, things come.
Yeah, and that's about all there is to it, you know, I think. Other than that, have fun. Yeah.
Good luck with that. It's a good interview. Appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was
First
nice
podcast
talking.
interview at the Hacienda.
All right.
Jake Thomas.
The beautiful hacienda.
Yeah, right on.